So Peter, sometimes a vendor will say that they missed an opportunity to sell their house, and they'll be disappointed. What are the steps, or what's the situation that leads up to something like that
happening? Yeah, no, it's a good question, Karen. And it often happens where a vendor's listed their property with an agent, they've gone to market, an offer's made, or maybe multiple offers are made by various buyers, and the vendor's adamant that the property is worth more money. And let's go up these stairs, try this out. So they end up saying no, and that buyer disappears, and at some point in hindsight, the vendor goes, I should have taken that. I've now listened to the market. It's time. I think that might have been the price we should have taken. It's disappointing, but maybe that's the price we should have taken. The issue is this, and it's a thing called confirmation bias. So confirmation bias is when a vendor has a belief about what their property is worth, and then they go about doing their own research, and it actually supports their belief, because they find properties that have sold, and they say that property is similar to theirs, and that confirms their belief in their own value of their property. But you see, they're not looking at it from the eyes of a buyer. They're looking at it from their own perspective, and that's the problem. And it's very hard as us human beings to, actually have real perspective, to stand back and make a rational decision about things when we've got emotion, we've got money tied up in something, a great deal of money, and all of those things. And also sometimes too, because other agents have actually fueled that confirmation bias by pandering to a vendor to buy their listing, to agree with them at the outset, saying, yeah, we can get you that price. So that's the issue. Confirmation bias is a bit of a killer. And the reality is that's okay. It's not as though, like for instance, when I'm dealing with a vendor, it's not as though that's the end of the world, because I believe in possibility. So there's a possibility. You're either a fixed possibility or unlimited, infinite possibility kind of person. I like to think of myself as the latter. So with that sort of possibility thinking, you can approach your marketing in such a way that actually really in a short period of time, over a period of 2, 3, 4 weeks, maximum 4 weeks, a vendor can actually make up their own mind and make an informed decision of what their property is really, really worth, without being pressured by an agent, without being manipulated by an agent. And I think that's really, really important, that the agent's got the ability to give the vendor tools to actually, be able to discern for themselves, but to be able to separate themselves from their belief based on their confirmation bias, to actually real world, real time, what's really happening in the marketplace, and see it for what it really is. And what that does actually mean is that property needs to be exposed to the market very, very thoroughly. It needs to bring in a lot of buyers, so that it's not a small sampling. I had an example of this not that long ago, where we pitched the property too high in price, and it was a real fault, and I'm sad that happened for the vendors, but they had this idea of price. They thought it was worth $1.6 to $1.7 million in Red Hill, and I'd appraised the property at 1.35 to 1.4, and I thought 1.4 best case scenario, and I had a lot of examples. However, they felt the examples I used were not as nice as their property, but they ignored a few real key negatives about their property that they didn't want to know about or talk about. In the end, I brought them an offer at 1.4. It didn't sell. They actually took it off the market. They spent another $20,000 getting it back on the market. 2 months later, went with another agent, and they finally realised the price of 1.4 would have been good, and they sold it for $1.38 million. Now, so they lost time, the cost of interest, the extra $20,000, and also the loss of that $20,000 as well. So they actually probably lost about $50,000 because of that confirmation bias that they set out with. So, taught me a thing or two as well to really help a vendor see what's happening with their property quicker, and get the property exposed to the market really, really quickly. And that's what we do. You know, it's really critical to get a lot of buyers in and buyers that match the property, to give really good feedback by way of offers. That's critical. So yeah, so confirmation bias is a killer. Be aware of it if you're selling your property. Keep an open mind and use possibility thinking, but really expose your property to the market so you can get lots of feedback from the market quickly. Thanks guys. I think, Karen, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Cool. See ya.